project that we're going to work on is going to be 2-point perspective letters. Okay? So what we're going to do first is, before we get into the technique of making things look three-dimensional and maybe even graffiti-like, is we have to make sure that everybody understands how to make good-looking block letters first. Okay? So today, I'm going to give you a little demonstration, and looking around in the classroom yesterday, when I asked you guys to write your names, a lot of you don't know how to do it. Okay? So I want to make sure that as we get started, that I give you a little demonstration and you get a day to practice just the letters first. Okay? There's actually a couple of really easy tricks that make letters really simple if you stop thinking about them as letters and you start thinking about them as just shapes. Okay? Because you always want to make letters the way that you write. And everybody writes differently. But if you think about them just as shapes, then they become a little easier. Okay? So how many of you remember in first grade, when you were practicing letters for the first time, they gave you those sheets that had the bottom line and the middle line and the top line, and you had to write your letters perfectly. Okay? We're going to use a very similar thing, except for there's not a specific way you have to make the letters look. You have your own style. You have your own thing. I ask that you try to do it in just a simple way first, and then once you get good at it, you can try something more difficult. Okay? So really quick, I'm just going to give you a demonstration on how I go about doing that. And the first thing you should do is think about each letter filling in a box. And all the boxes need to be the same size. Okay? If you think about logos, like the Nike logo or Adidas logo or things like that, all the letters are really crisp and clean looking, and they're all the same size and the same thickness. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so all eyes on the board for just a few minutes, and then I'll let you get to work. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I have to know how big the letters are going to be, how big I want them on my page, where they're going to go on the page. Okay, once you decide that, it's all going to be very similar. Okay, I want my letters to fill up sort of this middle portion of my page here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to draw a line that's mostly pretty straight. Okay? I'm going to erase that line in the end anyway, so it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. Okay? I'm going to draw a top line. Okay? Mostly pretty straight. Should be pretty parallel to the bottom line. Okay? So now, if you have a letter like an F or an H or an A, letters that have that line in the middle, okay, you want those all to line up, so you're going to want a middle line too. Okay, you can put that line a little lower than middle, you can put it a little higher than middle. That's up to you. It'll make all those letters look a little bit different. Okay? So once I have those, everybody stop with stuff and just turn and watch. Just a few minutes. Once I have those lines figured out, I know that my word or my letters or my numbers, whatever it's going to be, is going to fit within that rectangle. Okay? I'm going to do my last name, so I'm going to have T-H-O-L-L, that's 5 letters. Okay, so I know that I need to fill this rectangle with 5 equally sized boxes. The first thing I want to do, my letters, I have an odd number of letters. Okay, so I'm going to have one letter in the middle. My O is going to be exactly in the middle. So the first thing I want to do is I want to find the center of this. Okay, and my O is going to be centered right there. So what I need to do is I need to create a box that O is going to fit inside of. Okay? So this is going to be the space for my O. Okay? So now, stop messing around with papers and backpacks. Just watch. You don't need anything out right now. I need to decide, do I want all my letters to touch each other? Are they going to be really crammed together? Or do I want them to be spaced out? Okay? If you want a space, you're going to start with another line like this. This is going to be the space. Okay, and I'm going to draw another equal size box. So my rectangle is actually going to need to be a little bigger. Okay, so there's a box. I'm going to draw another little space, the same size space. And I'm going to go just a tiny bit bigger over here. Okay, so I'm going to work the other direction. Same size space. Same size box. And that way it worked out pretty good. I was a little off center. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pretty equally spaced boxes. So now I just work within those, and fill in my letters. Okay, there's a couple ways you can do this. If you already know how to do block letters and you're pretty good at them, you can sort of skip this first step. Okay, but I'm going to show you from the very beginning as if you know nothing. Okay, so my first letter is a T. I want to find the middle of this, which is right there. I'm going to draw my straight line up. I'm going to turn these into block letters so they're going to be thicker. So I'm actually going to draw my top of my T down from the top just a little bit. Okay? All my letters are going to be just slightly lower than the top. So now I'm going to do my H is going to be within this box. And that's going to be my center line. My O, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw these spaces. And I want this to sort of be like an O you would see on a jersey, maybe. So I'm actually only going to curve these corners off. So it's going to have really straight sides. Oops, I went too high, right? Forgot my own rule there. So this is actually going to be more like this. Okay, the L is pretty much already done for itself, but it's going to be right here. I'm going to stop a little bit above the bottom because that's going to get thicker. So now what I want you to imagine is you're going to draw a fence around each letter. Okay? Then you want your fence to stay the same distance away from that original line. Okay, so I'm going to start here. This is going to be my thickness, like that. Okay, I want it to be even on both sides. And I want this fence to stay the same distance away, like that. I'm going to go to the edge of my boxes. So I want my letter, so now the top of my box is going to be the top of my letter. Okay? Because I want that same distance that I stayed away from all the way around. Okay? So now I have, this was my box, this is my space. So now this is going to be, I already have this side of my H done because it's touching the outside of the box. I'm going to build this fence around the letter. I've already got this line too. And I'm using the top of the box as the top of these letters and the bottom of the box for the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to go like this. This is going to be the side of the O. This is going to become the top of the O. Doesn't look so awesome, but it'll be okay. An O or B's or a D or an A, R, all those letters have spaces inside of them. So you have to remember to do the inside space as well. And I'm actually drawing a little darker than I would if this was an actual drawing I was trying to finish. I just want to make sure you can see it on the screen, so I'm drawing a little heavy. Normally I would draw lighter so I could erase it if I needed to. Okay, so I've built that fence all the way around each letter. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to erase everything I no longer need. Okay, so the idea for today, what I really want you to focus on, is trying to get each letter to be the same size and the same thickness of the letter. Right, so I tried to make each one of these have the same thickness as I was drawing them. Okay. Your word or whatever it's going to be is totally up to you. I suggest just doing something simple first, maybe even just a word that was just a few letters, just to try it out so you don't get frustrated. And then once you get the hang of it, move on to something longer, more difficult. You can do numbers, you can do symbols like hashtag, that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter to me as long as it's school appropriate. And we're going to start with that. Okay? So eventually, the idea is that we're going to move into turning these into more stylistic type letters that are going to sort of be 3D, almost graffiti-like. Okay? Who has questions? Leo, is that a question? No. Okay, grab a sheet. Make sure your paper is the thin paper, not the thicker paper. Okay? You need a pencil.